For decades, diamonds were sold as the ultimate symbol of success. If you had money, you bought a diamond. If you wanted status, you showed one. But among wealthy buyers, that script has been quietly changing, because once people reach a certain level of money, many stop chasing what everyone recognizes and start chasing what almost nobody understands. They begin choosing stones with rarer origins, stronger stories, deeper scarcity, and a kind of luxury that doesn't need public approval. Some of these gemstones are more exclusive than diamonds. Some are bought purely because insiders know their value, and one near the end represents a level of rarity most people will never even see in person. So why are rich people quietly moving beyond diamonds? Today we're revealing 10 gemstones wealthy buyers choose instead of the obvious choice, and what each one says about how real luxury actually thinks. Ranked 10th. Spinel, when diamonds feel too predictable. For generations, diamonds became the safe answer. Engagement ring, celebration gift, wealth symbol, prestige purchase. The pattern became so common that the stone itself began losing one of luxury's most important qualities: surprise. Among sophisticated buyers, predictability can feel cheap, even when the price is high. That is where Spinel enters the conversation. Most casual buyers have never asked for Spinel. Many have never heard the name. Yet some of history's most famous rubies in royal collections were later discovered to be Spinel. For centuries, kings and emperors prized it before modern consumers became obsessed with diamonds. That alone reveals something powerful. Public popularity and true prestige are not always the same thing. Spinel appeals to wealthy buyers for a reason diamonds often cannot. It feels undiscovered. Its colors range from vivid red and hot pink to cobalt blue, lavender, silver gray, and deep black. Unlike many commercial gemstones, fine Spinel often carries intense natural brilliance without relying on a giant marketing machine to create desire. That matters to elite buyers, because once wealth reaches a certain level, attention often shifts away from what will impress strangers and toward what feels intelligent, rare, and personal. Spinel answers that perfectly. To the average person, it may look like a beautiful stone. To an informed buyer, it signals independence from mass market taste. It says the owner does not need the obvious option. It says luxury choices are being made from knowledge, not habit. And there is another reason collectors respect it: supply. Top-quality Spinel from places like Myanmar, Tanzania, and Sri Lanka is not endless. Exceptional untreated stones with rich saturation and clean crystal structure are increasingly difficult to source. That scarcity gives Spinel something diamonds struggle with in the modern era: unexpectedness. No billboard campaigns, no overexposed symbolism, no default status script, just a stone with royal history, natural fire, and quiet credibility. For many affluent buyers, that combination is more compelling than buying what everyone already expects, because true luxury often begins the moment predictable choices end. And once that mindset starts, diamonds are no longer the automatic answer. They become only one option. The next stone on this list goes even further, chosen by buyers who do not want admiration from the crowd at all, only recognition from the few who understand it immediately. Ranked 9th. Jadeite, when wealth wants privacy, not attention. Not every expensive object is designed to be noticed. Some of the most valuable things in the world are almost invisible to anyone outside the right circles. No logos, no oversized shine, no need for strangers to understand the price. That is exactly why jadeite has remained one of the most respected wealth stones on Earth. To many Western buyers, jade may seem understated next to diamonds. It does not explode with sparkle. It does not announce itself across a room. It offers something rarer than visual noise: restraint. And among old money cultures, restraint has always carried power. Fine jadeite, especially rich, translucent imperial green material, has been treasured for centuries by emperors, dynasties, and major collectors. In elite auctions, exceptional jadeite pieces have sold for astonishing prices, often surprising people who only measure value through diamonds. That surprise comes from misunderstanding how private wealth behaves. Public-facing luxury often seeks recognition. Private luxury often seeks meaning. Jadeite represents continuity, heritage, taste, patience, and access. It is the kind of stone chosen by buyers who do not need approval from anyone unfamiliar with it. That psychology matters. Once a person reaches a certain level of financial confidence, Signaling can become more selective. The goal is no longer attracting everyone's admiration. The goal becomes being recognized only by those whose opinion matters. Jadeite does that quietly. To some viewers, it appears elegant. To informed collectors, it can indicate extraordinary rarity, elite sourcing, and generational buying habits. Its finest material is increasingly difficult to obtain. Natural texture, translucency, saturation, and origin all influence value. Average jade exists in abundance. Truly elite jadeite does not. That separation creates one of luxury's strongest forces. Most people know diamonds have tiers. Far fewer realize jade has levels so extreme that one piece may be ordinary while another belongs in a vault. That hidden complexity attracts serious buyers, because complexity filters audiences, and filters create exclusivity. This is why some wealthy buyers choose jadeite instead of diamonds. Not because it shines more, but because it says more to the right people while saying almost nothing to everyone else. There is a certain confidence in owning something expensive that strangers would overlook. The next gemstone takes the opposite path. It does not whisper through heritage or subtlety. It stops people instantly with a color diamonds could never imitate. Ranked 8th, Paraiba tourmaline, when uniqueness matters more than tradition. There are moments when a diamond fails for a very simple reason. It looks like a diamond. Beautiful, respected, timeless. Yes, but expected. And for buyers who already own what everyone else admires, expected can become forgettable. That is why Paraiba tourmaline holds a strange kind of power in the luxury world. The first reaction to find Paraiba is rarely logical. It is instinctive. The color appears almost impossible. Electric blue, glowing turquoise, sometimes with a vivid neon intensity that feels lit from within. Even people with no gemstone knowledge often pause when seeing one for the first time. Diamonds can dominate through brilliance. Paraiba dominates through identity. No other major stone looks quite like it. That matters more than many realize. Once wealth reaches advanced levels, ownership often shifts from price toward experience. The question changes from how valuable is it to how unforgettable is it? Paraiba answers that immediately. Its fame began in Brazil, where the original discoveries shocked the gem trade with colors unlike traditional sapphires, aquamarines, or diamonds. Later finds in Mozambique and Nigeria expanded supply, but top examples with vivid saturation and strong glow remain highly coveted, and scarcity still plays a major role. Fine stones with exceptional color, transparency, and clean cutting are not common. The best pieces can command remarkable prices precisely because demand is driven by emotional reaction as much as rarity. That combination is dangerous in markets, because when beauty becomes instantly recognizable and genuinely hard to replace, desirability tends to survive trends. Wealthy buyers understand something casual shoppers often miss. Tradition has value, but uniqueness can have more. A diamond may communicate success to everyone. Paraiba often communicates taste to those paying attention. It says the owner chose something less obvious, harder to source, and visually impossible to confuse with mass luxury. That makes it especially attractive to collectors tired of predictable symbols. There is also a private thrill in owning a stone many people cannot even name. Curiosity becomes part of the ownership experience. Questions start conversations. Recognition comes from the informed, not the crowd. And in higher luxury circles, that selective recognition often carries more weight than broad approval. The next gemstone moves in a completely different direction. Its appeal is not shockingly modern color, but history so prestigious that owning one can feel like inheriting a legend. Ranked 7th, Kashmir sapphire, when history matters more than marketing. Long before celebrity campaigns, glossy jewelry ads, or modern luxury branding, certain stones were already symbols of power. They crossed empires, sat in royal treasuries, and were desired in eras where money could buy almost anything, but access still remained limited. That is the atmosphere surrounding Kashmir sapphire. To many collectors, Kashmir sapphire is not simply a gemstone, it is a chapter of history that can be held in the hand. Discovered in the late 19th century in the Himalayan region of Kashmir, these sapphires became famous for a blue unlike ordinary commercial stones. Descriptions often mention a soft, velvety texture paired with rich saturation, an appearance so distinctive that even exceptional sapphires from other sources are frequently compared against it. That comparison itself reveals status. The finest category becomes the benchmark, and benchmarks attract serious wealth. Unlike diamonds, whose modern prestige was heavily amplified through advertising and standardized consumer culture, Kashmir sapphires built reputation through rarity, beauty, and time. Their legend was not manufactured in a boardroom, it developed through scarcity and collector obsession. That distinction matters deeply to affluent buyers. Many wealthy collectors eventually lose interest in items famous mainly because they were marketed well. They become more attracted to objects whose reputation survived without constant promotion. Kashmir sapphire represents exactly that kind of prestige. The original source produced limited material. Fine examples with documented origin, strong color, and desirable clarity are exceptionally scarce today. Many reside in private collections, elite auctions, or long-held family holdings. Scarcity increases value, but historical scarcity creates something stronger: narrative value. Owning such a stone can feel less like buying jewelry and more like entering a lineage of collectors who understood it before the wider public ever did. That psychological layer separates ordinary luxury from enduring luxury. A diamond may communicate success in the present. A Kashmir sapphire can communicate taste shaped by history. It suggests patience, education, and appreciation for objects that cannot simply be mass-produced or endlessly replaced. For many wealthy buyers, that kind of signal is more sophisticated than brilliance alone. Because the highest tiers of status often shift away from what everyone recognizes and toward what only educated eyes fully appreciate. There is also a subtle confidence in choosing something whose importance requires explanation. No loud sparkle, no universal symbol, just legacy. The next stone proves that some buyers go even further, selecting gems whose greatest power is invisible at first glance, because only knowledge reveals what makes them extraordinary. Ranked 6th, Alexandrite, when intelligence becomes the flex. Some luxury items impress instantly, others reveal their value slowly, and in certain circles the second type carries far more weight. That is why Alexandrite occupies a special place among knowledgeable buyers. At first glance, it may appear elegant but understated. Then the lighting changes, and the stone seems to become something else entirely. Greenish tones in daylight, reddish or purplish tones under warmer light. One gem, two identities. That transformation is not a trick of cutting or marketing. It is the result of rare chemical conditions inside the crystal structure where chromium causes selective absorption of light. In simple terms, Alexandrite does something most gemstones cannot. It surprises educated eyes repeatedly, and surprise is valuable, especially to buyers who no longer care about obvious displays of wealth. Diamonds are recognized immediately. Their message is broad and public. Alexandrite works in the opposite direction. Its greatest appeal often remains hidden until the right moment, or until the owner understands what is being seen. That hidden complexity creates a different kind of status. Not status based on size, not status based on branding, status based on discernment. Many affluent collectors eventually move beyond purchases designed for strangers. They become drawn toward objects that reward curiosity, knowledge, and patience. Alexandrite fits that mindset perfectly. The finest stones are scarce, particularly examples with strong color change, pleasing clarity, and attractive size. Material from historic Russian sources holds legendary status, while select gems from Brazil, Sri Lanka, and East Africa are also highly respected. But rarity alone does not explain the fascination. What makes Alexandrite powerful is that appreciation requires awareness. To an uninformed viewer, it may look beautiful. To someone experienced, it represents one of gemology's most unusual phenomena contained in wearable form. That difference matters because luxury often becomes more selective over time. Broad recognition loses power. Layered meaning gains it. Owning Alexandrite can signal that choices are being made from study rather than habit. It suggests access to information, not just access to money. And among serious buyers, intelligence itself can become a luxury language. There is something compelling about a stone that refuses to be fully understood in one glance. It changes with environment. It rewards attention. It resists simplicity. The next gemstone takes a more dramatic route entirely, chosen by buyers who want one unforgettable piece to say what a room full of ordinary jewelry never could. Ranked 5th. Black opal. When one piece says more than 10 rings. There is a point where accumulation stops being impressive. More rings, more bracelets, more sparkle, more obvious expense. None of it guarantees presence. In fact, excess often creates the opposite effect. It looks like effort. True statement luxury usually works differently. It relies on one unforgettable object. That is where black opal becomes extraordinary. Unlike stones valued for a single stable color, black opal can contain entire worlds inside its surface. Electric greens, burning reds, cobalt flashes, violet streaks, molten oranges, patterns shifting with movement like weather systems trapped under glass. No two serious examples look the same. That uniqueness changes everything. Diamonds are often purchased through standard metrics: cut, clarity, carat, color. Precision matters, but comparison can become formulaic. One stone can resemble thousands of others. Black opal resists formula. Its value comes not only from size or clarity, but from pattern, brightness, body tone, rarity of color combinations, movement, and emotional impact. Even experts may debate which visual personalities feel most desirable. That makes ownership deeply personal, and affluent buyers often value personal rarity more than standardized prestige. Many wealthy collectors eventually stop asking, "What is the accepted luxury choice?" They begin asking, "What object feels impossible to duplicate?" Black opal answers with authority. The finest material, especially top stones associated with Australian sources such as Lightning Ridge, can be exceptionally scarce. Deep dark body color combined with intense multicolor fire creates contrast that ordinary opal cannot match. When exceptional examples appear, they do not merely sparkle. They perform. That performance gives the stone a different role than diamonds. A diamond often reinforces known status. Black opal creates identity. It suggests creativity, confidence, and a willingness to choose something less predictable than mainstream symbols. It can feel less like jewelry and more like collecting natural art. That distinction matters in upper luxury tiers, where sameness becomes the enemy of desire. There is also strategic subtlety in owning a gem many people underestimate until they see a great one in person. Recognition arrives through reaction, not through labels. Eyes pause, questions follow, memory stays. One remarkable stone can achieve what 10 expected purchases cannot: individuality. And individuality is often the rarest currency wealth seeks. The next gemstone moves away from dramatic visual spectacle entirely. Its power comes from something colder and stronger, the kind of rarity created when supply is so limited that branding becomes irrelevant. Ranked fourth, Padparadscha sapphire. When scarcity beats branding. Names can be powerful. Certain luxury names instantly trigger recognition, admiration, and assumptions of value. Entire industries depend on that reaction. People often buy symbols because symbols are easy to understand, but markets become more interesting when something extremely valuable exists without widespread recognition. That is the territory of Padparadscha sapphire. To the average buyer, the name may sound unfamiliar. Some have never heard it spoken aloud. Yet among collectors and serious dealers, Padparadscha has long carried an aura of rarity that far exceeds its public visibility. Its appeal begins with color. Neither purely pink nor purely orange, the finest examples display a delicate blend often compared to sunset tones or lotus blossom hues. That balance is difficult to achieve naturally, which is exactly why the category commands respect. Many gemstones can be beautiful. Few occupy a color space so narrow that the best stones become instantly recognizable to trained eyes. That precision creates scarcity, and scarcity that requires expertise is especially valuable. Diamonds benefit from broad branding. Nearly everyone understands what they represent. Padparadscha moves through a different channel entirely. Appreciation depends on knowing what is rare, what is treated, what is overly modified, and what qualifies as truly fine natural color. That complexity filters the audience. Casual shoppers usually avoid what they do not understand. Sophisticated buyers often move toward it, because once wealth grows, recognition from everyone becomes less important than recognition from people who know the difference. Padparadscha can signal exactly that mindset. It says the owner values nuance over mass familiarity. It suggests patience, access, and a willingness to pursue something difficult to explain in one sentence. The best examples, historically associated with Sri Lanka and select Madagascar material, are limited. Stones with strong transparency, balanced color, pleasing cut, and minimal treatment can become fiercely desirable. And when supply is naturally small, marketing loses power. No campaign can manufacture enough top stones. No slogan can create true geological rarity. No trend can flood the market with masterpieces. That is why certain affluent buyers choose gems like this instead of diamonds. Not because the public recognizes them, because the public usually does not. There is prestige in owning something valuable that requires education to appreciate. That kind of prestige tends to age well. The next gemstone takes that principle even further. Favored by buyers who trust expertise over popularity and who often purchase what the wider market notices too late. Ranked third, Untreated Burmese Ruby. When experts buy what the public misses. Crowds usually arrive after value becomes obvious. By the time something is universally admired, discussed everywhere, and easily recognized, the smartest opportunities are often gone. Public demand tends to reward what is already famous. Experts often move differently. They search for quality before attention arrives. That is one reason untreated Burmese ruby remains so respected in elite collecting circles. To the casual buyer, a ruby may simply be a red gemstone. Beautiful, expensive, desirable. But within serious gem markets, the difference between an ordinary ruby and a top untreated Burmese ruby can be enormous. Color tone, fluorescence, transparency, crystal structure, treatment history, origin, cut quality. Each factor can transform price and desirability. That hidden complexity creates opportunity for informed buyers. Mass audiences often purchase labels. Experts purchase distinctions. Myanmar, historically known as Burma, became legendary for producing rubies with vivid red hues, often described as pigeon blood in the trade. While terminology is debated and standards vary, the finest stones from respected sources earned global status because their appearance seemed unusually alive, rich saturation with luminous internal energy. But the true premium often lies in one word: untreated. Many rubies in the global market undergo heating or enhancement to improve color and clarity. Such treatments can be accepted in parts of the industry, yet collectors frequently place extraordinary value on gems that achieved beauty naturally. That preference reveals an important luxury principle. The harder nature does the work, the less humans need to. And when nature rarely succeeds at that level, prices respond accordingly. Diamonds can be purchased through familiar retail channels with standardized expectations. Elite untreated Burmese rubies usually require something else: connections, trust, certificates, expertise, and patience. That process itself filters buyers. For affluent collectors, difficulty can increase desirability when the reward is genuine rarity. Owning one may signal more than wealth. It can signal discernment, access to specialist markets, and confidence to buy what broad audiences do not fully understand. There is also emotional power in choosing a stone whose value lives beneath the surface. To many observers, it is simply red. To knowledgeable eyes, it may represent decades of geological rarity, political complexity, supply constraints, and collector demand condensed into one object. That difference between appearance and reality is where expert markets thrive. The next gemstone belongs to buyers who think even further ahead, those less interested in yesterday's symbols and more interested in what quiet prestige may become tomorrow. Ranked second, Tsavorite garnet, when tomorrow's status matters more than yesterday's. The most interesting buyers are rarely chasing what is already established. Once an item becomes the obvious symbol of prestige, it often loses part of its advantage. Everyone knows it. Everyone expects it. The surprise is gone. Forward-looking wealth tends to search earlier. It looks for signals before they become mainstream. That mindset helps explain the rise of Tsavorite garnet among increasingly sophisticated collectors. To many casual shoppers, garnet still carries outdated assumptions: dark red stones, affordable jewelry, common gift store familiarity. Those assumptions collapse the moment fine Tsavorite enters the room. Its color can be intensely vivid green, bright, energetic, and naturally alive. Unlike emerald, Tsavorite often appears cleaner to the eye, with strong brilliance and fewer of the inclusions many buyers associate with emerald material. That alone creates intrigue. A stone offering rich green beauty without relying on the same old hierarchy invites attention from people tired of inherited luxury scripts. Tsavorite was first brought to wider market awareness in East Africa, particularly Kenya and Tanzania. Compared with ancient gem categories, it is relatively modern in recognition. That newer profile gives it a unique advantage. It still feels like discovery. And discovery is powerful currency among affluent buyers who prefer being early rather than late. Diamonds represent established prestige. Tsavorite can represent emerging taste. That distinction matters because status constantly evolves. Yesterday's symbols may remain respected, but they no longer separate the informed from the predictable. New prestige often begins quietly, adopted first by buyers confident enough not to need universal validation. Tsavorite fits that pattern. Fine examples are not limitless. Quality color, desirable size, strong transparency, and precise cutting all narrow the top tier. Supply challenges in mining regions can further shape availability, adding another layer of scarcity. But perhaps the stronger appeal is psychological. Owning Tsavorite can signal a person who notices value before consensus forms, someone less interested in repeating known choices, someone more interested in what comes next, someone comfortable buying quality without waiting for permission from the crowd. That confidence is attractive in every luxury market. There is also elegance in choosing a stone many people underestimate simply because they have not updated their assumptions. Markets reward that kind of gap. The final gemstone on this list reaches an entirely different level, where rarity becomes so extreme that ownership stops being about trend, beauty, or branding at all and becomes access to something almost nobody can realistically obtain. In first place, natural pink diamond. When wealth wants what almost nobody can own. At the highest levels of luxury, price stops being the main barrier. Money can solve many problems. It can secure access, speed, convenience, private service, global reach. But there is one obstacle even enormous wealth cannot easily remove: lack of supply. When something truly rare exists in painfully small numbers, ownership becomes less about spending power and more about opportunity. Being wealthy may help, but it does not guarantee entry. That is the world of natural pink diamond. Unlike ordinary categories of prestige jewelry, natural pink diamonds occupy a tier shaped by geological improbability. Their color is not simply attractive. It is the result of uncommon structural distortions within the crystal lattice, conditions nature almost never creates at meaningful scale. In other words, beauty here begins with accident, and accidents this rare become expensive. For years, mines such as Australia's Argyle operation supplied many of the world's most famous pink diamonds. When major production sources decline or close, the market feels it immediately. Demand may remain global, but replenishment becomes uncertain. That imbalance changes buyer psychology. Consumers purchase products. Collectors pursue diminishing categories. Natural pink diamonds often attract buyers who understand the difference. This is not just jewelry chosen to impress strangers at dinner. It can function as portable rarity, an object where size matters less than authenticity, saturation, provenance, and scarcity. Two people may wear expensive stones. Only one may be wearing something the market cannot easily replace. That distinction becomes everything in upper-tier wealth circles. There is also a social layer impossible to ignore. Broad audiences recognize diamonds in general. Far fewer understand the hierarchy inside diamonds themselves. Pink diamonds therefore carry a private prestige, highly valuable to those informed enough to know why, nearly invisible to those who do not. That combination mirrors how sophisticated wealth often behaves: visible enough to matter, subtle enough to avoid noise, rare enough to remain interesting. Many luxury symbols lose power once they become too common. Scarcity restores mystery, and mystery is one of the few things money continues to chase. For some buyers, owning a natural pink diamond is less about color and more about possessing proof that certain things still cannot be mass-produced, copied endlessly, or guaranteed on demand. That is why stones like this sit above ordinary status purchases. Not because they sparkle more, because they remind the market that true exclusivity begins where availability ends. Diamonds may still be famous, but fame is not the same as exclusivity. As this list showed, many wealthy buyers quietly choose something different. Some want rarity. Some want history. Some prefer stones only insiders truly understand. Because at higher levels of wealth, luxury often becomes less about being seen and more about being known. The loudest symbols attract attention. The rarest choices earn respect. So the next time diamonds are called the ultimate status symbol, remember, For some buyers, the obvious choice stopped being enough long ago, and some of the world's most valuable stones are the ones most people would never recognize.